The galaxy had seen many wars. Civilizations rose and fell, some vanished without a trace, nothing compared to the terror now spreading through the stars. A predator unlike any before had entered the Orion Arm. It did not come with fleets or flags. It came like a storm, consuming everything in its path. Planets burned. Space stations went silent. Whole species disappeared. In the great assembly hall, leaders of dozens of alien nations gathered. Voices trembled, even though they tried to hide their fear. The enemy was unstoppable. No weapon slowed it. No shield held against it. Every world they had trusted was gone in days. They called it the Swarm. It was not one empire, not one mind, but countless horrors moving together. They devoured, reshaped, and multiplied. Where they landed, nothing survived. Ambassador Zealer of the Viren spoke with a heavy tone. His scaled hands shook as he raised them. We have lost 37 colonies in 2 cycles. The swarm spreads faster than light. We are not facing a war. We are facing extinction. A hush fell across the chamber. Admiral Sarek of the Dothri pounded the table with his claw. Then we fight harder. We cannot abandon the stars. Zyler looked at him with dead eyes. Have fought. We have lost fleets larger than histories can record. No one here has the strength to resist. You all know this truth, even if your pride blinds you. Silence again. For long moments, no one spoke, until an elder voice broke through. The still air. High Scholar Tovira, ancient and nearly forgotten, stood from her seat. Her body was weak, but her voice was sharp. There is one path left. Dozens of eyes turned to her. She spoke slowly. In our deepest archives, we kept records of a world, sealed away, feared, and shunned by the galaxy. A world we swore never to call upon. But now, desperation leaves us no other choice. The chamber stirred with alarm. Murmurs filled the air. Everyone already knew which world she spoke of, but no one dared name it. At last, General Vacker whispered the forbidden word. Earth. The hall froze. The sound itself seemed dangerous. For centuries, Earth had been cut off, hidden, erased from star maps. The galaxy feared its inhabitants. Not because they were weak, but because they were something different, something reckless, something dangerous. Humanity had been left alone for a reason. Admiral Sarek growled, "Cannot mean this. To summon them is to unleash another nightmare." Scala Tovira's gaze was steady. Another nightmare, yes. But perhaps one that can fight the nightmare already upon us. Arguments broke out across the chamber. Some shouted in fury, some in fear, some in secret hope. But deep inside, all knew the same truth. There was no other option. The swarm would consume them all. Only a greater predator could stand against it. Ambassador Zyler closed his eyes. The decision was heavier than a star, but he knew it must be done. Very well, we summon the humans. The words spread like fire across the galaxy, hidden transmitters that had not been touched in 1,000 years were reactivated. A signal, forbidden and dangerous, was sent toward the blue planet at the edge of the spiral arm. At first, nothing happened. Hours turned into days. Leaders began to doubt, to regret. Perhaps Earth would not answer. Perhaps it was already too late then. On the 7th day, the stars above the assembly darkened. A transmission arrived, coded in a tongue no one had heard in centuries. Simple, direct, a human voice. Calm, cold, message received. Humanity is coming. The chamber went silent. For the first time, fear mixed with a strange feeling none had. Expected hope. But none of them knew what they had truly unleashed. When the human transmission ended, silence held the great assembly. The leaders looked at one another, but no one spoke. Some felt relief. Others felt dread. Summoning humanity had been an act of desperation. But now that it was done, many wondered if they had signed their own death sentence. For days, nothing happened. The swarm continued its advance. Reports came from distant colonies, and hours falling and hours, fleets scattered like dust. Every new message carried more despair. Then, without warning, a signal rippled across subspace. Not the wild chaos of the swarm, not the careful codes of the Galactic Council. This was something else. A piercing, exact frequency. Cutting through every channel, it was human. At the edge of the spiral arm, telescopes caught the first shadow. Shapif, it could be called, that emerged from the dark. It was enormous, unlike anything the galaxy had ever built. Not elegant, not beautiful, brutal, angular, designed for one purpose only: war. The vessel's surface bristled with weapons that no alien eye could identify. Its engines burned like a captured star. Its hull was scarred, as if it had already survived 100 battles. On its side, in bold letters, one word was written in English: resolve. The assembly's monitoring stations filled with chatter. Engineers whispered in disbelief. Generals clenched their jaws. No one could deny it. Humanity had returned. Ambassador Zyler sat frozen, his throat dry. They answered, he whispered. By the stars, they answered. But their arrival was not alone. Within hours, more shadows arrived. 2, then 5, then 20. Each ship different, but all carrying the same brutal design. They did not move with ceremony. They did not seek permission. They entered orbit around neutral space stations, their weapons online, as if daring anyone to challenge them. The galaxy's fleets had always carried banners, shining signals of peace or dominance. Human ships carried none, only silence. Finally, one message came across open channels, the same voice as before, calm, steady, without emotion. We received your distress call. We will engage the swarm. Do not interfere. It was not a request. It was a command. Panic rippled through the assembly. Some leaders protested. Some demanded cooperation. Others wanted to shut down communication altogether. But High Scholar Tovira silenced them with a single phrase. He called predators. Do not be surprised when they act like predators. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Orion Arm, the swarm approached another colony world. Billions of alien civilians waded in. Fear, they had already seen what happened to others. There was no escape. They expected fire, destruction, and silence. But this time, something else appeared. The human ship Resolve descended from the void. It did not send warnings. It did not negotiate. It unleashed its weapons. The swarm ships, 100 strong, surged forward like a tide. But the humans fired once. Just once. A beam of light, focused and sharp, cut across the void. Entire clusters of swarm vessels vanished, torn apart in a single strike. The galaxy had never seen such power. The survivors swirled, confused, then rushed again. Human ships moved like predators in the hunt. Silent, ruthless, efficient. Every shot destroyed dozens. Every maneuver shredded the swarm's formations. On the surface of the colony, citizens, who had accepted death, watched with wide eyes as the nightmare that had consumed so many worlds was torn apart. In less than an hour, the battle was over. The swarm was gone. For the first time in months, the galaxy saw victory. Reports flooded the assembly hall. Leaders wept. Admirals stared in disbelief. Hope, fragile and dangerous, began to return, but along with hope came fear. Ambassador Zyler spoke in a low voice. They destroyed the swarm. With ease. Admiral Sarek growled. What happens when they turn their weapons on us? The question hung in the air like a shadow. Everyone thought it, but no one dared say it aloud. Later that cycle, private channel opened between the human fleet and the assembly. The same voice spoke. The swarm is not your enemy alone. It is a threat to us as well. We will fight it. But understand this: if you betray us, if you stand in our way, we will not hesitate. The message ended in the silence that followed. Scholar Tavira whispered words that chilled the chamber. We have unleashed them. Now we must pray we can survive their victory. Far above, the human fleet prepared to move again. Their war had only begun. The galaxy could hardly believe what it had witnessed. Swarm had been unstoppable, tearing through fleets and burning worlds. But the humans, creatures long erased from maps and memories, had destroyed an entire invasion in less than an hour. News spread faster than light. Across thousands of worlds, whispers became shouts. For the first time in years, citizens dared to hope. The swarm could be stopped. There was still a chance. But hope was not the only thing spreading. Fear moved alongside it. In the assembly hall, the leaders of the great civilizations gathered again. Their voices clashed louder than before. Admiral Sarek slammed his claw on the table. They saved a world today, yes. But do not be blind. You saw what I saw. The weapons they wield are beyond anything we can imagine. If they turn against us, we will be helpless. Ambassador Zyler raised his scaled hand. They came. When we called, they did not attack us. They fought the swarm without asking for reward. Does that mean nothing? Sarek's eyes glared. It means they are hunters. Hunters protect their prey until the time comes to devour it themselves. The hall filled with murmurs. Everyone knew the history, the reason Earth had been locked away. Centuries ago, humanity had spread faster than any young race before. Their colonies grew, their fleets multiplied, their science pushed boundaries that others dared not cross. First they were welcomed, but soon stories began. Wars without mercy, experiments that terrified even the most advanced minds. A refusal to submit to the Council's control, and then, one day, humanity was gone. Their gates sealed, their names struck from records.
Oh.
No one spoke of it again.
Oh.
Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others believed they had been made to disappear. Now they were back. While the assembly argued, the humans were already moving. Their fleets split into groups, striking at swarm targets across the arm. Each battle ended the same silence, wreckage, victory. The swarm had never been challenged like this. For the first time, it retreated. But humans did not chase with care. They pursued like predators, driving deep into dangerous regions where no sane fleet would go. Their ships seemed to crave the fight. On one colony, survivors described the humans differently than the leaders did. To them, the humans were saviors. They remembered the shadow falling across their skies, the fire from the heavens, the silence that followed. They spoke the human name with reverence, like gods of war who had come to shield them. Yet, in another corner of the galaxy, a different voice rose. High Admiral Kareth of the Triumvirate sent a secret warning. The swarm is terrible, but humanity is worse. If we survive this war, we may not survive them. Still, no one dared speak such words openly. They needed the humans too much. Meanwhile, inside the human flagship Resolve, commanders gathered around a war table. Their faces were calm, but their eyes burned with focus. The swarm adapts, one officer said. Each time we strike, it changes, learns. The next wave will not fall as easily. The human commander, a tall woman with scars across her face, leaned forward. Her voice was firm. Then we will change faster. That is what we are, another officer asked. And the aliens, how long until they realize why they locked us away? The commander's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. Let them remember. By then, it will be too late. Far away in the shadows of forgotten archives, Scholar Toviera studied old records. Her hands shook as she turned. The pages of forbidden history. She saw images of human wars, whole star systems turned to ash. She read testimonies of species that begged the Council to act, claiming that if humanity was not contained, nothing would stop them. One phrase appeared, again and again. A warning left by those who had lived through humanity's rise. They do not fear death. They do not stop. If cornered, humanity will burn the galaxy before surrendering. Tovir closed the archive, her heart heavy. She whispered to herself, we may have traded one apocalypse for another. Back at the front, human fleets pressed deeper into swarm territory. Each victory shook the galaxy, each battle filled with awe and terror. And yet, the swarm was not finished. From the black void beyond known space, their true strength began. To gather, the humans had won battles. But the war was only beginning, and the galaxy began to wonder. When the final battle came, would humanity stand with them more against them? The galaxy believed victory was near. With every new report, humans destroyed more swarm fleets. Colonies once thought lost were saved. For the first time in years, alien civilians sang songs of hope. Children spoke of humans as heroes, but predators. Never stay silent for long. Deep beyond charted space, the swarm gathered. Its losses had not broken it, they had taught it. Every destroyed fleet, every dead brood was not the end, but a lesson. And the swarm was learning. The first sign came quietly. Human strike fleet vanished. One moment, they were chasing swarm remnants near the Red Nebula. The next, silence. No distress call, no wreckage, just absence. On board the flagship Resolve, Commander Alara studied the reports. Her scarred face remained calm, but her eyes narrowed. They are adapting. They are baiting us. The swarm does not retreat, not without reason. Her second officer frowned. Then we must change as well, show them why humanity was feared. The galaxy soon learned what that meant. When the swarm launched its counterattack, it did not come with scattered waves. It came as one tide of living ships, darker and larger than anything before, surged toward a border world of the Dothri. Billions of civilians screamed as the sky filled with black fire. Every galactic fleet was already shattered. No one could stand against it, except the humans. The Resolve arrived first. Dozens of human warships followed, engines burning bright. But this time, the swarm did not break. Its ship split into coordinated patterns, something it had never done before. They moved like an army, not a storm. Human weapons tore through the first wave. Hundreds of swarm vessels exploded. But for every one destroyed, 2 more came. Clawed at human hulls, piercing shields that had never been pierced before. For the first time, humanity bled. Ambassador Xyler watched the battle unfold from the Assembly's war monitors. His scales went pale. "They are losing," he whispered. Admiral Sarek's claws clenched. His voice carried both fear and grim satisfaction. Even predators can fall. But then humanity changed. Commander Alara gave a single order: activate. Protocol Black. The other officers hesitated for only a second. Then they obeyed. All across the human fleet, hidden panels slid open. Weapons that no alien had ever seen came alive. They were not beams, not plasma, not missiles. They were something else. Dark projectiles, invisible until they struck, ripping. Apart swarmed ships from the inside. The sky turned into chaos. Swarm vessels that had resisted every weapon suddenly folded like paper. Tire formations shattered. The human fleet did not just fight, it hunted on the ground below. Civilians watched in awe and horror as human warships cut through the living tide like predators among prey. They did not hold back. They did not show mercy. They fought with a fury that made even the swarm seem less terrifying. Within hours, the battlefield was silent. The swarm had been annihilated. The border world was saved, but the price was clear. Human ships drifted, scarred and burning. Thousands of their soldiers dead, and yet not one retreat order had been given. They had fought until the last shot, the last breath. When the reports reached the Assembly, the leaders trembled, not just from fear of the swarm, but from fear of what they had seen in humanity. Ambassador Xyler spoke in a hushed voice. "They are relentless. No fear, no hesitation." Tavira nodded slowly. "This is why we hid them. This is why they were erased. It's not because they were weak, no, but because they are stronger than anything we know." And then came the part that chilled them most. Survivors on the border world described what they saw after the battle. Human soldiers, armored and faceless, walking among the ruins. They did not comfort the civilians. They did not celebrate victory. They only repaired their weapons, collected their dead, and prepared for the next fight. One child asked a soldier, "Why do you fight so hard? Why do you never stop?" The soldier paused, looked down at the child, and answered in a voice heavy as stone, "Because if we stop, everything dies, even us." The assembly hall was silent when the message arrived. For the first time, the leaders wondered if they had summoned not saviors, but something far worse, because the humans had shown their true nature. They did not fight like protectors. They fought like creatures who had already accepted death, and were willing to take the whole galaxy with them if needed. The swarm had met its match. So had the galaxy. The border world still smoldered from the battle. Alien civilians worked to bury their dead, their skies scarred with the burning wreckage of swarm and human ships alike. Yet even in victory, no songs were sung. For what they had witnessed was not hope, it was terror given form. The humans had one, but the way they fought left questions. Why did they carry weapons so far beyond galactic science? Why did their soldiers move like machines, without hesitation, without fear? In the Great Assembly, these questions erupted into a storm. Admiral Sarek spoke first, his voice sharp with suspicion. "You saw the recordings? The humans used weapons we have never seen. Projectiles that ignored shields, black fire that tears matter apart. They held this power for centuries, hidden, waiting. Does that not concern you?"
Ambassador.
Xyler tried to remain calm, though his scaled hands trembled. They saved billions of lives. Swarm would have devoured us all if not for them. Sarek's claws slammed against the table. When the swarm is gone, then they will stand as the only power left. You think predators will simply leave once the prey is safe? Murmurs filled the chamber. Even those who defended humanity could not deny the truth. The humans fought like no other species, and their technology was not the work of a forgotten age. It was something beyond reason. Across the galaxy, rumors spread. Some claimed the humans had found forbidden science. Others whispered that they had not merely survived in isolation, they had changed. Meanwhile, humans pressed forward. On board the Resolve, Commander Alara stood before a glowing war map. Dozens of red marks showed swarm hives across the Orion. Each one represented billions of enemies. "They are regrouping," she said coldly, "but so are we." Our officers prepared for the next assault. This time, they unveiled more of their hidden arsenal. Ships cloaked themselves in light-bending armor, vanishing before alien eyes. Weapons fired without heat, without sound, dripping ships apart silently, leaving nothing but drifting shadows. The galaxy's fleets could not even understand what they were seeing, let alone replicate it. At one battle near the Veil Nebula, Swarm tried to overwhelm a human task force with sheer numbers. Civilians on nearby stations watched the fight. They saw human ships disappear from sight, only to reappear within the heart of the swarm formations, tearing them apart from inside. The battle lasted minutes. When survivors described what they saw, their voices shook. They fight like ghosts, like demons. The swarm didn't even know it was dying until it was too late. The reports reached the assembly, and fear deepened. Scholar Tovira, who had studied the Forbidden Archives, spoke with grave certainty. "This technology is not new. It is older than any of us can imagine. They had it even before they were erased from our records. Ask yourselves this. Why did we bury their existence? Why did we hide Earth? It was not kindness. It was survival." The words cut deep, and yet the galaxy could not deny the truth. The humans were the only line standing between them and extinction. The swarm adapted, but humanity adapted faster. Still, shadows grew. After one battle, alien rescue ships arrived at a ruined world once attacked by the swarm. They expected to find only destruction. Instead, they found something else. Vast sections of the planet had been scorched not by the swarm, but by human weapons. Entire regions had been burned clean, not to defeat the enemy, but to erase something. When survivors asked what had happened, human commanders gave no answers. They simply said, "Containment." The word spread through the galaxy like poison. Containment of what? Of the swarm or of something else? Even Ambassador Xyler, who had defended them from the start, began to doubt. What are they hiding? Why do they fight not only to win, but to erase? Meanwhile, Commander Alara stood aboard her ship, staring into the endless black. Her voice was quiet, but every soldier around her listened. The swarm thinks it is the apex predator. It believes nothing can stop it, but it has forgotten what we are. We were never prey. We're never meant to be caged. We are the fire that consumes predators. Her soldiers nodded, silent and unflinching. Far beyond, in the heart of the void, the swarm stirred again. It had felt its first true defeat. It had seen a predator greater than itself. And now, it would unleash something the galaxy had never seen before. But in the assembly, the leaders whispered a different fear. Perhaps they had not summoned humanity to save them. Perhaps they had summoned the very monsters they once buried. Galaxy had begun to believe the swarm could truly be defeated. World after world had been saved by the humans. But victory always comes with a shadow, and the shadow was growing darker. The swarm was not dead. It was evolving. From the black reaches of deep space, reports came of something new, not simple. Fleets, not the endless waves of ships the galaxy had known. This was different. Entire stars were being consumed. Moons stripped of matter. Nebulas turned into breeding grounds. The swarm was building something. Something vast. On board the Resolve, Commander Alara studied the data. Her scarred face did not show fear, but her voice carried a heavy edge. They are learning from us. They copy our tactics, adapt our strategies. But this, what? She pointed to a star map where entire systems were dark. This is more. Is creation, her second officer muttered, almost in disbelief. They are making a hive that spans worlds. The swarm's new form revealed itself soon after. At the edge of the Orion Arm, an entire system pulsed with unnatural life. Its star dimmed, wrapped in black tendrils of living matter. Orbiting planets had fused into one colossal body of flesh and metal. From its surface, titanic ships larger than cities rose like insects taking flight. The assembly gasped when the first images arrived. Admiral Sarek's voice trembled for the first time. This is not an enemy fleet. It is a living god. No fleet could face such a thing. No weapon could burn it fast enough. The galaxy despaired once more, but the humans did not. Commander Alara stood before her war council. Her soldiers watched silently, waiting. She spoke with steady fire. The swarm thinks it can outgrow us. It thinks we will be afraid. But fear is their mistake. We are not here to survive. We are here to end this. Her order was simple. Release the Black Sun. Every officer stiffened. Even among humans, the name was whispered with dread. But no one questioned her. Days later, the galaxy saw the truth of those words. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the corrupted system. Hundreds of ships stood ready, their weapons burning like stars. But at the center of the fleet, one ship emerged unlike any other. A vessel the size of a moon, its surface black as void. No lights, no markings, only silence. When the assembly's observers saw it, many refused to believe. Some screamed. Some wept. The Black Sun, Ambassador Zyler whispered, horrified. They built a weapon that devours stars. The human fleet advanced. The swarm's living god roared, its titanic ship spreading like a tide. For the first time, humanity did not fire first. Instead, the Black Sun opened. From its core, a wave of light darker than night spread outward. It was not fire. It was not energy. It was something else. Space itself seemed to collapse, bending and breaking. The swarm's titanic ships screamed. As they were pulled apart, their massive bodies torn into dust. The living world's shape cracked, shrieking as its surface melted into void. Even the star at the system's center trembled. The galaxy had never seen such destruction. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, nothing remained for the swarms. Hive was gone. The system was gone. Only emptiness was left where once a sun had burned. The humans had one. But the cost was terrifying. an entire star system erased. In the assembly, silence ruled. No leader dared speak. Finally, Scholar Tovira whispered, "This is why they were hidden, not because they lacked strength, but because they have too much." Admiral Sarek snarled, "They destroyed a system. Not just the swarm everything, do you not see? Humans are worse than the swarm. At least the swarm leaves stars behind. They leave nothing." But Ambassador Xyler said nothing. His eyes remained fixed on the silent reports. In his heart he felt the same fear. Far from the assembly, on the ruins of another world, alien survivors watched human soldiers march through ash. They did not cheer their saviors. They did not even approach them. They only whispered a new name for the humans, the silent end. And in the blackness beyond, the swarm stirred once again, even shattered, even burned. It adapted. It was not finished, but now the galaxy faced a new truth. The swarm was not the only threat. The humans had shown what they carried in the dark, and perhaps in saving the galaxy, they would also destroy it. The humans had returned, but their arrival was not quiet. The sky above the alien capital burned red with fire as human warships cut through enemy fleets. For centuries, the galaxy had fought wars with pride, honor, and slow tactics. But humanity brought something different. Trade mixed with precision. Their ships didn't dance around in formation. They struck like predators that knew exactly where to kill. The Alien Council, watching the battle from their tower, felt their knees weaken. They had called for help in desperation, expecting a handful of humans, maybe explorers, maybe survivors. Instead, what arrived was a storm. Every enemy ship that moved against the human fleet was erased in seconds. Shields collapsed, armor shattered, and silence followed. Humanity had not come to negotiate. They had come to finish what others could not. Down on the surface, Luro watched with fear and awe. The strange human soldiers walked beside him. They were taller than most species, wearing black armor that seemed alive. Their helmets glowed faintly with blue lights, hiding their faces but not their presence. When they moved, the ground almost shook. "Stay behind us," one soldier ordered, his voice cold, processed through the helmet. Luro obeyed. The mission was clear. The humans had not only come to fight in the skies, they had come to claim the enemy's core world. As the group moved through ruined streets, Luro noticed something strange. The humans were calm to calm. Explosions shook the air, but they didn't flinch. Enemy snipers fired from rooftops, but the human armor absorbed the shots, then responded with a single pulse of light that reduced buildings to rubble. Luro whispered to himself, "They fight like they know the future." At last, the group reached the enemy citadel. Black towers rose high, guarded by lines of alien soldiers who looked both terrified and desperate. They had fought wars for centuries, but this was something different. They had never faced an enemy who fought as if war itself was nothing but a task to be done quickly. The human commander raised his hand. No warnings, no negotiations. Then, the humans moved. What followed could hardly be called a battle. Alien soldiers screamed, their weapons firing in a storm of plasma, but the humans advanced without breaking stride. Their weapons tore through enemy ranks. Their shields deflected attacks as if they had been designed to counter every weapon in existence. Within minutes, the defenders broke. The citadel gates fell open, inside. The alien warlord, the leader who had crushed dozens of worlds, waited on his throne. His guards had already abandoned him. His hands shook as he watched the black-armored humans step into his hall. "You should not exist," the warlord whispered. "You are gone, extinct." The human commander stepped forward. His helmet retracted, showing pale skin, sharp eyes, and a face carved by war. He looked at the alien with no anger, no joy, only finality. "We were gone because you wanted it so," the commander said. "But desperation called us back, and now your time is finished." The warlord tried to speak, but before he could form words, the commander raised his weapon and ended it with one shot. The sound echoed through the hall like the closing of a door. Luro stood frozen. He had seen battles before, but never like this. The humans were not just soldiers. They were something more, Something old. Something the galaxy had forced into silence once but could no longer control. As the citadel burned, the human commander turned to Luro. "You called us," he said quietly. "Do you understand what?" "That means—" Luro swallowed, unable to answer. The commander's eyes seemed to see through him. "It means your galaxy is no longer safe. We are not saviors. We are the weapon you begged for. And now that weapon is awake again." Outside, the human fleet began to spread across the stars. No one in the galaxy could stop them now, but Lero could not tell if this was salvation or the beginning of something worse. The stars above the battlefield burned like cold witnesses to the end of an age. The alien fleet stretched across the void, countless warships forming a wall of steel and fire. Every empire had gathered here, for one purpose, to erase the humans once and for all. But humanity was not running anymore. They had been summoned in desperation. They stood ready to answer. At the center of the human formation was a single ship, the Sentinel. Its hull was scarred, patched from endless battles. Its captain, a man named Rion, stood at the command. Dekka's face was calm, but his voice carried the weight of humanity's last stand. "All ships," he said, "prepare to fire." The aliens thought they understood human weapons. They had seen plasma, missiles, even experimental quantum rails. But they had not seen what humanity had kept hidden. In silence, the Sentinel activated its final weapon, the Starforge cannon. A weapon so powerful it used the heart of a captured star to launch its fury. The galaxy had mocked humans for being desperate, but desperation had made them invent the impossible. The first shot was fired. A beam of light tore through the alien line, shredding shields, melting ships into glowing fragments. Panic spread across the alien fleet. Their commanders shouted in disbelief. This was not war, it was annihilation. Yet the humans did not stop. Wave after wave of fire burned across the battlefield. Each human warship moved with ruthless precision, fighting not like soldiers, but like survivors who had nothing left to lose. From the alien command ship, the enemy admiral watched in horror. For centuries, his kind had believed humans were weak. Now, he saw the truth. "They are not fighting for territory," he whispered. "They are fighting for existence. That makes them unstoppable." Still, the aliens fought. They poured everything into the battle. But humanity answered with something no empire could match: unity. From Earth, from Mars, from colonies long forgotten, every human had come. Void rang with their fury. The aliens tried to retreat, but humanity was done running. They chased their enemies into the dark, breaking fleets that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. For the first time, the galaxy trembled. On the bridge of the Sentinel, Captain Rion gave his final order: end it. The Starforge cannon charged once more. This time, its target was the alien command ship. When the beam struck, the massive vessel exploded in silence, its light scattering across the stars like the end of an empire. The battlefield went quiet. Smoke and wreckage floated in the void. Humanity had won, but victory came with silence. Every human soldier knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen their power, their desperation, their will to survive. And now, every empire would fear them. Rion looked at the stars. For centuries, humans had been ignored, mocked, underestimated. Now, the galaxy would never forget them. "They summoned us in desperation," he said softly, "and now we are here to stay." And with that, the human fleet turned away from the ruins of the enemy. They did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They simply prepared, because humanity knew the galaxy would come again, but next time, the galaxy would remember. It would remember what happened when humanity was summoned, and it would remember why humans should never, ever be underestimated again.